Welcome to The Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson, and this podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Today, we have author Kimberly Mosby, and you are not going to believe all the gifts and all the things that she's gone through and all the gems that she's coming to share. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me, Denise. It's a pleasure.
Of course, I am excited about you getting this message out. But first, tell us, why did you write this book, Kimberly?
I wrote Unveiling Shadows, my personal odyssey through coercive control, which isn't an easy topic to talk about, but it's a memoir to inform people about coercive control and the mediums that people are using to prey on other individuals.
Now, before we get into the details of that, I want to know, how does one become a prey to this coercive behavior, control?
I'm going to say speaking out against people in power that have a lot of money.
And you started to speak out about certain people, and this is what happened?
Yeah, the establishment is what I call it.
Okay, can you share a little bit about your background and your early life in Montana?
I was born in Helena, Montana, and moved to Salt Lake City, Utah with my mother after she divorced my father when I was 2. So I grew up in Salt Lake City, ended up moving to Florida for a little bit, lived in California for a little while, moved to Florida, and then ended up in Arizona, where I ended up going back to school. And I graduated with honors from the University of Phoenix and with my 2 bachelor's degrees. So I have a bachelor's in business administration and a bachelor's in business management. So I raised 3 kids, worked a full-time job, and went to school full-time. And they were all on the honor roll while I was doing that. And then in 2010, actually, I opened Gateway Title, which is a real estate title company. So I've owned Gateway Title for 14 years. And some of the people that were my clients at the time with First American Title said, it's a great idea. Start at rock bottom, because you can only work your way up from there. And the other half said, you were crazy. You're crazy to do it right now. But I didn't listen to them, and I wanted it more than I was afraid of it, to be my own, business owner and entrepreneur. So, yeah. So then that put me here in Salt Lake again.
Mm-hmm. How did your education in business management and business administration from the University of Phoenix shape your career?
It shaped it quite well, and I was the only college graduate at the time, when I graduated from University of Phoenix. So it gave me an umbrella approach of business, because that's what business administration is it gives you an umbrella approach. So it gives you a little bit of everything. So I'm the jack of all trades and the master of none.
Oh my God. You've also held a number of roles in companies like Cox Communications, Countrywide Home Loans, and First America. And I believe this is important to establish that you have built a substantial business for yourself, a really lucrative business for yourself. So you have to have a lot of creativity, imagination, and strong education in order to do this. I just want people to know who you are when they start to hear some of the things that you've gone through, you know? So,
Yes.
how did these experiences that you've had prepare you for your role at Gateway title? And how did that play a part in what started to happen to you?
So, how did my role in Gateway title? Well, because I don't like to be told what to do, really. If we're going to be completely honest, and once people are their own boss, they, get the feeling that it's usually better for them to be their own boss instead of being told what to do. I'm sure I'm not the only one, that
Amen.
that doesn't want to follow someone else's orders. And so when I came from Cox Communication, that's the cable industry, which was a good old boys club, and I was very much subjected to male chauvinists, where they basically belittle you, and objectify you. So I think all of those experiences lead up to a person's strength if you look at it in an optimistic sort of way.
Yeah.
So, and I talk to myself a lot, so I could basically probably solve my own problems by just talking to myself.
Now, tell us a little bit about, or give us an overview of what coercive control is.
Okay.
And how it really changed your life.
Yeah. Okay, so coercive, the definition of it is the practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. And the definition of control is the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events through manipulation.
Right. And how did this impact your life? Coercive control.
Coercive control. So should I get into why I wrote the book and the story behind the book?
Yeah, because tell us the story behind the book.
Okay. So my parents are billionaires. They're extremely politically connected in the state of Utah. They were able to get their commissioner friend to file a petition against me to have me put in an insane asylum for 360 days against my will.
Because you disagreed with them.
Because I disagreed with them on a lot of things, but it started when I refused to take the COVID vaccination. Because then myself, my aunt and uncle and I were ostracized from the family. And then it just got worse from there. Then if they would have been able to do that, then my sons that were working for me at the time could have had a judge grant them personal representative or executor of my estate, which means they would have taken everything. I have a lot of people tell me that my story is heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, but I know that I'm not the only one. But if you have people that have a lot of money, that have a lot of power, they can pretty much do anything they want. So they were spreading rumors about me, and the kids were fueling the fire. So their Nana and Papa, of course, were going to step in and save the day. But they didn't. When I went to the first hearing at Huntsman Behavioral Institute, the judge who was the commissioner looked at me and said, well, you're obviously not here for mental health issues. You're here for drug addiction. And I was like, I guess you're going to write the narrative however you want. So she said, do you have representation? And I said, I've been asking for a public defender, but I have been denied in my requests. And she said, we'll delay the case for 2 weeks. and you need to get 2 essential treatment evaluations, and you need to get an attorney. And so I basically spent over $130,000 defending my civil rights. And
it's worth every penny because, wow, look at you now.
Yep. So writing the book was part of my process. The attorney ended up making me take a plea deal of going into a drug addiction recovery center as a partially hospitalized patient for 30 days when I'm not an addict. So the people that were in the program knew that I was there by force, but I still tried to get everything that I could out of it. And what I did get was a really good therapist and a book out of the deal. So the therapist said, you have to put pen to paper to get through some of this. And then obviously now I do EMDR, which is the trauma-based therapy to help me talk about what happened to me without getting overly emotional about it. So I can talk about it, have the thought, and then move on.
So that's how you became, or that's how you got the strength and resilience to navigate through this harrowing experience.
Right. Well, I think it started with the trauma from childhood. And then when they started creating more of the trauma, there's a book that's called Waking the Tiger. And it's about a trauma-based response. So when they pushed me, they unleashed the tigress, is what they did. So I went totally the opposite direction of where they thought that I was going to go, which was she'll conform, she'll break down mentally, we'll get her, we'll call her delusional, we'll call her that crazy, bitch. You don't have to bleep that out.
Yes.
And that's part of them, don't you feel like you're deteriorating? They'll try to manipulate you with words to try to get you to conform. And then it just pushed me to Waking the Tiger.
I know there is a drug, I've heard of it, like there's a cocktail of drugs that they give people to make them mentally ill immediately. Have you heard of that? And is that part of coercive control?
I have not heard of the cocktail, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Why not? Because if you aren't feeding the system anymore and you're not putting people in a hospital and they're too healthy, then you have to feed the medical institution somehow by making them insane. And it's basically like incarceration. It's incarcerating a person, but in a mental institution instead of in jail.
Wow. What do you hope the readers, the people that are listening, that are realizing that I feel like I'm being coercively controlled, what do you want them to take away from your perspective?
From my perspective is that they're not the only one. And the more that we talk about this and get it out into, knowledge for the people, then we can avoid it or overcome it, basically. I was speaking with a woman at Chase Bank the other day, and she emailed me at my Unveiling Shadows email address, and her name was Jane. And she said, I thought a lot about our conversation the other day. And even though I don't get to see my grandkids because my daughter was trying to steal from me and her husband was abusing me, I think I should stay away from them. And I said yes, because there is no need to have people in your life that are bringing toxic, negative, unhelpful situations to your life.
Yes.
So I think if people know that they're not alone is one step, But then if we can come together as a community to overcome it, I think it's even better, because silence gets us nowhere way too fast. If we're not talking about it, then we're not progressing. And then we're giving them that actual power instead of taking the power back.
Boy, I have been realizing more than ever that the power that we think we have, we don't have. And that's for, a lot of things, but I'm realizing that more and more now. So your book, it sheds light on pervasive darkness of coercive control. How important is it to you to raise awareness about this issue?
It's extremely important to me, which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is because I wanted people to be aware.
Yeah.
And I would like for, to help people who have lost everything because their autonomy and finances were stripped from them. If anybody would like to know sort of what it's like, they could watch the movie I Care a Lot. They could also watch the Netflix series called The Program, where people pay to have their daughters taken away to a school.
I've seen that. Horrific.
And it ends up here in Utah, which is mainly where a lot of the Synanon style programs are, where like Dave Delancey Street, if you look up him, he runs a Synanon style program, and those programs are based off a method called the community therapeutic approach. And what they do is try to come together and manipulate you and intimidate you so that you will be submissive and they can take control over you.
Wow. How is your book going to contribute to a bigger awareness? How are we going to get people to understand more about coercive control?
Hopefully with just talking about it. I was speaking with another business owner that she has been in the nursing industry, but she now owns a spa, like a beauty spa. And she is extremely intelligent, but in part of her nursing background, she actually went into people's homes, more like elderly, where they were being drugged and they were having stuff taken from them. So either their mental fortitude, or they were selling stuff off in their homes. And so she knows exactly from that perspective how bad it is. And she watched the movie I Care a Lot, and that's based on a true story. So we can't just bury our heads in the sand when a topic gets uncomfortable. We actually need to talk about it.
Yes. Although it's such a sensitive topic, one, because we don't know much about it, and two, we don't know who are the people that are behind this coercive control. Is it just family, or is it the institution? You call it the institution?
I call it the institution.
Yes.
So what my parents did was they contacted the medical crisis outreach team and told them stories about me. And that medical crisis outreach team is basically the same thing as community therapeutic approach, where they have people watch you, gang stalk you, and report back to them. I didn't find that out until I pulled my medical records, that they actually told them stuff about me that wasn't true.
Oh, wow. People, you have to get this book. It's Unveiling Shadows. All of this is in there, all of the information, all of what you're hearing, and much, much more. And there's a message there for you. But Kim, what message do you want to convey to our individuals, the people that are listening, the audience out there who might be experiencing coercive control?
I would say I didn't find out basically about being a target is what's in my book because it felt like the real life Hunger Games. So when I started doing research, when you and I were doing the book writing process, which I finished very quickly because I'm a go, go, go sort of girl.
Guys, she never missed a meeting. We had our meetings once a week, and we were just writing away, getting the information, getting the creative information, and you were just strong. I cannot find another person who was so strong-willed and ready to just share the story and get it out of them. It's like you needed to get it out.
Yes, because you said to me, the person that I first got on the Zoom call with and the person that's sitting in front of me today are two different people.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. When I first met you, our meeting over the phone, and you sounded like you were not overwhelmed but beaten down. And then while we were going through the process, I can hear the pain, I can hear the hurt, and I can hear the mistrust because you couldn't trust people. It was so hard for you to start to build trust again. And I had to thread carefully because I realized this when I hear your story and I see your writings. I realized this. But then you finished and you felt, to me, you seemed like you had emptied out yourself and left everything in that book and did not give a damn what comes next because you were done.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
you look free, you sound free, you look energetic, and I just love it. You soared.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the truth shall set you free, right?
Yes, yes.
So, yes, and I hold myself accountable just as much as I'll hold these people accountable. So it was
Yeah.
more like, I'm going to tell on you. I'm
And
going to tell what you did to me
I-
so that other people know.
you've said this over and over again. I want people to know that they're not alone and they're not going crazy because they were gaslighting you.
Yes, gaslighting. Yeah, they wiped out my whole inner circle, like friends of 20 years. That they got them all together in a meeting and uh, talked crap about me behind my back. And I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only person that's had a family member say stuff behind their back and not talk to them about what's going on to their face. Like, and that I feel like is wrong too. Like, why talk about somebody behind their back? Why don't you just go straight to them and ask them what's going on?
Yeah, you've lost a lot of family behind this. You've lost a lot.
Yeah. Which is why I didn't trust people because I'm like, I don't know who's involved in this community therapeutic approach. And I wasn't trusting before. And then after, it made me really rigid. But I think now going through the therapy with the EMDR and the IFS, which is called internal family systems, as long as people start working on themselves to get tools in their toolbox for coping, then they'll get through it a lot easier if they have those tools instead of getting depressed, and isolation is part of it because that's why they wiped out my whole inner circle. But I'm used to being alone. I raised myself since I was 5. I was a latchkey kid, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to too.
Why were you a latchkey kid? Your parents worked?
Yes.
Okay.
So they were never home. And so I raised myself, had to be my own mother. I skipped school for the very first time at age 5. So the very first time I left school, I was 5.
Wow. At 5 years old, what would you say to this 5-year-old girl now that you've gone through so much, you've been resilient, you've overcome so many struggles that were meant to stop you and just put us to really change your mental health. These people were messing with your mental health. What can you
Yeah.
say to this 5-year-old girl now?
I've done therapy on that too, because I get to go and rewrite everything and then go into my safe place. But
Mm-hmm.
I just, hug my 5-year-old self and say it's going to be all right, because this is where you end up in the end of all of this,
Yeah.
which is not anywhere I expected myself to be 2 years ago.
Mm.
But here I am speaking about it, preparing to do a TEDx about coercive control and
Wow.
manipulation and gaslighting. So I'm super excited about that.
This has brought you a long way, and what was meant for bad is being used for good. Looking back, how do you see your journey through coercive control influencing your professional and your personal life today?
So I think that I probably was a little too nice to people, and I gave a lot of people the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm very good at setting boundaries, which
Yes.
a lot of people need to learn how to do that.
Yes.
Particularly women, and especially those that are in abusive relationships.
Yes. Let's talk about that for a little bit, because I know that's a platform that you strongly believe in. Give us some tips on how do we do this?
Well, knowledge is power. So obviously, do your research, understand what gaslighting is, understand what a narcissistic or NPD looks like, which is narcissistic personality disorder, because there's more and more of them every day. And once you learn to identify those red flags in a relationship, it will allow you to get out of it, which is what I believe.
Yeah.
And I'm very much an advocate of women, uh, especially women in business. I think there are a lot of powerhouses out there. And one thing I will say is that I don't believe in other women being jealous of other women,
Yeah.
because I think when that starts to happen, we lose our credibility. So if we can be happy for one another on where we've, on our journey of self-fulfillment, whatever that looks like, that we need to be proud of each other instead of tearing each other down. And yeah, so.
No, no, no. Keep going. I enjoy hearing you just, you know, go through this and give us your perspective. This is your time. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I have had to cut more people out of my life recently because they were projecting on me, and I didn't appreciate that.
Yeah.
And those people that I thought were my friends are now not. But then again, everything that I've gone through has made me stronger in placing those boundaries, because they need to be placed. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that men aren't in abusive relationships too, because I know of some men that have been verbally or even physically abused, and it's just not the time to bury our heads in the sand and sweep things under the rug and pretend that they don't exist. It's time to step up and start talking about what we need as a society to make us whole. Because let's be honest, the politicians are not okay. There's
I mean,
something wrong.
yeah, I mean, look at the way, our country is today, but that is also why you're out there advocating against this coercive control and teaching people what is coercive control, because before you, I have never heard of this.
Yeah. Well, the government does coercive control all the time,
Hmm.
but then people might call me a conspiracy theorist, but it can't be a conspiracy theory if it's true.
If
and
it's fact.
And it's fact. And my parents are billionaires and they're politically connected
And can pretty much do whatever they want.
Do whatever they want.
That I know I don't want to get into it because it's politics, but I do think that there's a lot of problems with our country and how people with money basically they run our country.
They do. They run it and then they pit us against each other, which I don't think that way.
Yeah.
But it is true.
You are all for women empowerment, and you're all for educating and advocating for people that have gone through this. And I really commend you for sharing your story, because this is deep. There are some people out there literally thinking right now that they've lost their mind because people are making them think that what they're saying and what they're seeing is not what they're seeing is not true. What they're living is not true. There are people out there. So I commend you for sharing this message and getting this story out of you. What advice would you give to other people that are going through this and they may want to write about it too? What advice can you give to aspiring authors who want to write about their personal challenges, such as coercive control?
Putting pen to paper is always good therapy, even if you are just journaling and you don't end up writing a book.
Absolutely.
But, the more these kinds of things get published and the more we start saying the same thing about this is wrong, then hopefully it will stop. Because I have contacted the ACLU. They couldn't help me. Obviously, I contacted the FBI when I knew it was happening before I met you to write the book. And recently reached out to Doppel to report the hospital that they held me in for 9 hours against my will. They couldn't help me. So I ended up filing a report with the Department of Justice. So we're going to see where this goes. And then I will have more information to tell people, because it's basically like the government is not for you. They're rather against you because nobody wants to help.
What kind of support is out there for victims of coercive control?
I haven't found any yet. Other than therapy, which is how disheartening this is.
So we need to read your book, because I know in your book, you not only provide the story, but you also give some resources, right?
I do. So you could go to targetedjustice.com. I ended up finding that. There are a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but there are a few YouTube videos and some government websites where they tell you exactly what they're doing to you, and then they're not going to help you. So if you look at one of the videos, there is a gentleman by the name of Dr. James Giordano. And he teaches at West Point Military Academy, where he goes through, I can control anyone, I can control their behavior, I can make them do whatever I want. And he's very proudly boasting about all of those things that they can do in the military. And I honestly don't think that people know how far technology has surpassed, that they're all being surveilled and manipulated.
Yeah, they must be living under a rock.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I just want to go away, know.
What are your plans for the future? What do you have planned for your authorship and your advocacy?
So the plan is that some of my proceeds from the book sales will go into an account to help gain representation for these people who have been wronged. That's my goal. Obviously, I will be doing a podcast as well, so we'll get that set up.
Yes, I'm excited for that, because there's so many people out there that no one else understands what they're going through, but because you've been there, you have this fight, and you've been so resilient, they can come and talk about it. And if nothing, get the healing process started just by sharing their story with you. So I commend you for thinking big and even thinking of starting this podcast, which is coming soon, guys. But first, tell people where they can get your book.
You can get it at unveilingshadows.com, and soon will be on Amazon. It's not available there yet, but there is an ebook available on the website. So right now it's just unveilingshadows.com. And I am a survivor. I'm a targeted survivor. And so I think that I just want to inspire, uplift, and educate people and give resources to where the victims can go so they know they're not alone.
Yes. And tell them again how the writing process aided in your healing, because I'm very proud to have worked with you and collaborated with you to get this book out there, because it was such an important part of your healing process.
Yes, pen to paper was huge. In fact, I will tell you a story because I think that this guy should write a book. So my clients knew that something was wrong because I wasn't ever in the office, because I spent the last 9 to 10 months fighting for my civil rights.
Yeah.
And writing the book was a healing process. But when one guy came in, his name's Ron. I won't say his last name. But I started telling him about what had happened to me last year, because this just happened to me. And he looked at me and he said, "You are not alone." He said, "I had a business partner who embezzled $13 million. And instead of him going to prison, they took me. And when I started fighting for my civil rights, being my own attorney, they threw me in solitary confinement for 365 days.
Oh my goodness.
And then he started crying, and I hugged him and I said, "We need to start talking about this. And part of your therapy should be writing a book about your experience," because they kept him in there for years.
And he should definitely be one of your first guests on your podcast, Kim, because his story, he has such an important story. Oh my God, it's devastating what happened to him.
Yep. And his daughter was in here when they did the signing together, and I just had to hug him.
Yeah.
Let him cry. And I said, but writing it down is going to be the biggest healing process for you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And for anyone that is listening, if you are going through something similar, if you feel like people are trying to control you, they're spreading rumors, they're telling lies, they're ostracizing you, they're cutting you off from your community, from your, the people that are part of your daily life, I want you to think about reading this book and seeing how you can be bold enough to get yourself the help that you need, because you can win this. They are trying to take you down. They are trying to take away your civil rights, but you can win this. You can win this. Get the book, get the resources. There's not many. So this is where you need to go to get the resources, because like she said, there's no one else, there's no one out there that's going to believe your story. There's nothing in the community to support you. There's nothing in the community to support you. So the resources that Kim has put together, it's in this book. Read her story and get the help that you need. But also, if you'd like to write a book, send me an email at authordnicholson@gmail.com. I can help you get your book idea out of your head and onto paper so that you can become a best-selling author. This is important to get your message out there. This is not the time for people to tell you who can tell your story, who is authorized to share a message. If this is the era that we live in, where you can just collaborate with someone like me, like Bold Publishing, and get your message out there. Get it into the hands of the people who need it, because no one should be able to say whose story is more important than the next.
That's right.
If you have a message and you have a story, you should have the power to share your story and leave that with the world, not the story that someone else wants to leave, not the story that they want others to believe, but the story you want them to know, the facts that you want them to know. Don't let anyone else tell your story. No one can share your story better than you.
Yeah.
So if you want to write a story, send me an email, authordnicholson@gmail.com. Kim, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you. But before you go, there are 3 questions that I love to ask all of my guests. So here we go. What is one bold promise that you can share with the audience, Kim?
One bold promise is I will make people aware of coercive control, that it exists, and open conversations about it.
Yes. That's bold. Yes. Thank you. We need that. What is a bold statement that you can share with the audience that will cause a paradigm shift?
Hopefully, people start realizing the establishment isn't for the betterment of society, it's for the demise of it.
Oh, wow. Lord have mercy on us. What's a bold move that you'd like to make in the future?
Bold move is doing TEDx and setting up the One Love Collective account to help victims.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Where, again, can people connect with you? Because you have a unique story, Kim. How can people connect with you to be a part of your tribe?
They can email me at Kimberly@unveilingshadows.com and go to my website to find out more information. If you go to Targeted Justice, you'll find a community there. If you're only listening to the mainstream media, you need to start looking at news sources elsewhere, like Substack or Rumble, where they kicked people off, social media platforms for spreading misinformation when they were really telling the truth. You could also go to X now. Elon Musk opened that up for free speech. Thank goodness. He had to purchase it for 44 million or whatever, but I'm grateful for him for that. And I will tell you to stay strong.
That's right. Bottom line, stay strong.
Stay strong.
You're not losing your mind. They're trying to make you think you're losing your mind.
Yep.
Wow. So thank you so much again. I appreciate you. I am very proud of you for coming out and sharing your story and doing your book launch. And you had such a beautiful book launch, and it was a pleasure for me to be there in Utah. And I'm looking forward to you being more successful. I can see lots of greatness ahead of you. And I am here and I'm privileged that I was able to work with you. Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank goodness for Kat referring you, because I am grateful. I'm grateful.
She's amazing. I will see you soon. And guess, I want you guys to listen to this, share it. That's the most important thing. Please share this podcast. You never know who is going through coercive control. You never know who's experiencing this right now. And if you can give them a little bit of hope, well, that can change someone's life for the better. So please, after listening to this, or before you even finish listening, share this podcast and get this message out there that, there is hope, there is help. Thank you very much, Kim. You have been amazing.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson, or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.